Alright, is Chrono Odyssey the game that we've been all waiting for? That is the question that I was getting asked consistently. Is this game good? Is it worth the hype? Well, we just had the beta test recently. I dropped my first impressions, but I want to give you guys like a final review after I did all the tier 5, which is the highest bounty bosses that you could do, and I did all of the solo dungeon bosses, which are called Chrono Gates, which kind of like are the main story progression of the game. I also want to mention first off that this is an old version of the game, and I put that in quotations because there is a lot of heavy criticism around the game right now because a lot of people, like myself, want a new MMO to play. I think we all want to see a brand new next-gen MMO. But this is an older version of the game that is technically more buggy. However, there is a newer version of the game that is apparently going to be way better. But I'm not even sure why this is even mentioned, because it's like, if we're giving the players a beta test, why wouldn't we just get the newest, most up-to-date version? And that kind of raises a red flag. If the other version is better, that has less bugs and is less clunky, why would you give us like the older version of the game? Is it because of stability? Either way, I just have the question of like, is this new version of the game worse? But I do want to go ahead and start off with like what it brings to the table that is new in the MMO action RPG genre. So first off, you have these new skill windows that you can open up, which can do a few different things. Like you can slow down time, you can summon different bosses, which I just summoned one over there, that you've defeated. You can also reverse time, and these are all powers that you get, which have really long cooldowns. You can see it's got like a 300-second cooldown, very, very long. But these are like really, really powerful skills that you're going to be using for bosses and these like bounty bosses that you'll engage. But these are kind of things that you would expect to see in like a single-player story-driven game. I don't know if any of you guys remember that game, Prince of Persia. Really cool game, but like these kind of like reverse time things are really cool, and I'm really surprised that they did add this into like an MMO, and it's pretty much just mostly for PvE. I don't know how some of these skills will interact with PvP because that would be kind of broken, but nonetheless, there is also PvP in the game. But now I want to start off with what's kind of nice here. So like the positives, the good, is specifically the character editor. This is so amazing. It's still behind Black Desert Online, but some of the characters that you can create in this are absolutely wild and hilarious. And yeah, what you can do in this game is amazing. Another thing that I really liked also is there's no cost to respec your skills. One thing that would have been nice though is when you're seeing some of the skills, it'd be cool to see like a little like window of what you could actually do with the skill, like basically a little skill preview. That's something that would be an additional thing that I really want them to have, but being able to respec for free is awesome. I also really like the tone of the game. It is definitely dark and violent. They're not afraid to like chop off limbs, which some games are kind of afraid to do. Very, very violent. I like that. That's good. Now on to the bad, and I want to start off with like the game obviously is in beta, but there are so many bugs in this game. Just check it out. The flying horse? How buggy is this game? Activate. Nope. Okay. The AI is so broken. Like, he doesn't know what to do. Pick up. Target not found. I mean, it's right there. What do you mean the target is not found? What's up with the lighting in this area? Look, it's like dark and then night. It's just like look at this. I just move around my mouse and it goes from dark to like light. Like, what's going on with this game's lighting? The AI is so broken. Like, look at the AI. Alright. Like, I'm on land, right? Like, what is this, like, laser, like, water? And then, like, whoo, we can just go start swimming? And the water just ends right here. Look at the rabbit. He doesn't have terrain. Wait, they can't fight back. Alright, he can come back this time. Alright. Alright. Like, where's the grass going?
Honey, can you help with the dishes?
Hell no, my boy Slaydra just dropped a new vid, and I'm gonna watch it and smash that like button kappa. Try hard 7 in the chat, boys.
Alright, so, other things that definitely need some work in the game is crafting the same item 10x times is pretty annoying. So, let me go ahead and kind of explain it because it ties into how the game's progression works. So, just like any other game, you have like your items that you pick up and you could just equip them and use them. Cool. But a lot of times this whole thing is tied around what's called the equipment score, which is basically like the item power. It almost feels like a mobile game or just some sort of game that isn't really like action RPG oriented, like let's say Diablo or Path of Exile, where you can kind of pick up the item and you'll get consistently like better items as you go along because you're fighting higher like monsters. In this, while that is partially true, the game heavily favors on like a gear score, an equipment score of your character. There's a lot of areas which kind of say recommended gear score, and if you don't meet those numbers, it's going to be a lot more difficult. But overall, there are some stats, like you have your crit, and then you can have like your stats on the item, but I just don't really like the equipment score existing. I think that they would heavily benefit from just removing this completely and just have it be all about the affixes that roll on the item, considering you're going to have to craft lots of these because the equipment score rolls in a pretty big range. Basically, a high tier 3 is a low tier 4 because you go basically in the tiers because the items essentially evolve, which I think is okay, but I just don't like these sort of like mobile and freemium games where like everything is tied to this like specific number that your character needs to reach. Otherwise, it's like, oh, you don't have the recommended gear score. It's very annoying. Plus, another thing that I hated in the game is gathering herbs and all of the little crafting materials. It's subjective, but I'm going to mention what I think is kind of too long, because when you don't have like the high tier upgrade for like, let's say the axe, when you go to the tree, it, no joke, is like 40 seconds sitting there. I've never understood wasting the player's time with that kind of thing. If you want to make it like 5 seconds, and then if you have the good axe, you can maybe do it in like 1 or 2 seconds, cool. But 40 seconds or like a minute mining, it's just like the most boring thing. Again, it's a waste of the player's time. I just don't see that being good in the game. But as far as like rolls on the items, I didn't see any like legendary items that had some crazy like new game-breaking mechanic. And there's a lot of like extra damage based on certain things. There's like stagger boosts and small things. But I didn't see anything like crazy where like you use your HP as mana or like cooldown. Like I'm talking like Path of Exile, big brain like uniques that are crazy good. Hopefully we can see that, but keep in mind we were kind of limited to the items that we could get in the game. But as far as it goes, there wasn't anything, again, super out of the ordinary. More basically just numerical changes. I already mentioned the power here, but optimization in this game is absolutely terrible. You're going to have higher ping than FPS most of the time. I was playing at pretty much 100 ping, and, you know, obviously we played on the NA servers, but I don't know, it's just a really laggy game. The optimization is pretty terrible, the FPS is terrible, the game is crashing, it's lagging, and the whole game is clunky and unresponsive. It just feels super outdated. The AI is really bad also in the game. In general, though, I feel like if you guys have played like that game Vindictus or Black Desert Online, these games that are older are just so much better, or even like Guild Wars 2. But some of these areas that you have to like climb up, the animations are a little bit rough. Some of the areas that you're supposed to climb to, it's not like I'm breaking the game, like you're supposed to climb up to these areas. It just feels really clunky, and like sometimes you'll like slip and fall off. It just feels really bad in general. I don't know why they want this like parkour sort of a thing when the game doesn't really support it because of the animation, so maybe that could be fixed. There's no preview skill window, which I talked about. That's kind of a small thing. That's like a quality of life, which I kind of expect to see in any next-gen MMO. And then also, there's a lot of bugs in the game, specifically with like the questing. There's a lot of quests where it's so vague. It just says there's a giant circle. If you don't read what you're supposed to do, sometimes you can be lost trying to find that boss. And the boss is, oh, he's in this secret dungeon, because this boss is a bounty boss, and you have to like climb up super high, and then you have to pull this lever. Like everything is like hidden. Some people like this. It kind of feels like old games. If you guys maybe grew up on like Super Nintendo, N64, PS1, where like a lot of these games, unless you had like a strategy guide, you wouldn't be able to do this. But nowadays with like the internet, obviously if you're stuck on a quest, you can just look it up. I had to look up a couple quests because I didn't know where the heck to actually fight the boss or where the boss was hiding. But there's a lot of bugs, specifically when you're trying to like collect the reward from the boss. Like you can see over here, I couldn't even get the head. Like this was like a problem with one of the quests. There's a lot of quests that are just completely bugged out. Kind of expect that kind of stuff with betas, but I don't think it's just like a bug where like, oh, it's that specific one. There's a lot of times where like you can't even pick up an item that's on the ground. Again, lots of bugs in the game. One thing that's really surprising, and this could be a pro and a con, because some people kind of like the idea of exploration, and if you have a mini-map, a lot of people just kind of follow the mini-map, go to giant, you know, orange arrow point here. But that does kind of ruin exploration. However, I want to say as far as like having a mini-map, I think just having it available would make the game so much better. I already mentioned the cutting trees. It feels absolutely terrible. There's a lack of monsters in the game. When you need to farm a very specific thing, like if you need to get 10 animal hides, and there's only like 1 or 2 animals in this whole like area, and then other people have to farm it too, it becomes a very, very big problem. So I think not only is it bad because there's not enough of like the monsters to actually fight to get the material, but it's a big problem because the monster doesn't drop it 100% of the time. It is random if they drop said crafting material, which I don't really like. I also feel like crafting is big RNG again. A low tier 2 is a high tier 1, which means that you're going to have to craft sometimes, and it's going to take a really long time to get all those materials. And once you get all of those materials, you craft it and you hit a low roll, because again, you can hit 15 and that's basically a tier 2 at that point, and then you got to go again. Or if you hit 16, you're like, oh gosh, I rolled almost the lowest roll. It's going to feel bad. So I think as far as like the gear score in terms of crafting, if you want to make this so it's a little bit more consistent, I think that the range is a little bit too wide. Maybe you can make it 22 to 25. That way, it's a lot more of an upgrade consistently, because when you hit that low roll, it's going to feel bad, especially because farming these, some of the materials isn't bad at all to farm, but some of it is painful, again, when you finally get that animal hide, because that was a problem in terms of like getting certain things to drop. Maybe you got really lucky, but again, it's just a pain in general. And I don't really like the gear score going up in terms of like the thing. Here's kind of my conclusion, because a lot of people were asking like, you know, is this game really good? I would say, for me personally, I would recommend Guild Wars 2, Black Desert Online, Throne and Liberty. They're all in a better state right now for how the game specifically feels, because that's the biggest issue with the game. In terms of like the game, it just feels like really clunky. It feels like a game in an alpha state. It needs a lot of work. And I kind of wanted to give some numerical scores because I feel like it's kind of necessary for like a review. As far as like the music goes, I think that like what I would say that the game does relatively well when it works, because the music kind of fades in and out. Sometimes it just goes completely blank. The music for this game is like a double thumbs up. I'd say when it works, okay, it's like 9 out of 10. The music score for this game, excellent. They did a great job. Graphics, I mean, if we go back to, okay, remember, this was posted, this is their 2 years ago version, this is from 2023, it's not even like the newer version. They showed this looks really good. I mean, look at this looks absolutely next gen. Like, and does the game look like that? No, it doesn't really, right? I mean, they kind of do this with a lot of video games, but it does not run that smooth. Maybe they're running it on like a very specific, different engine or something 2 years ago. I don't know. At the end of the day, the game doesn't look as nice as what they presented previously. Now, if they can get it up to that point, it's a 10 out of 10. There are areas where the game does look quite nice, but the optimization is pretty terrible. I'm getting sub 60 FPS. You can see 30 FPS on the top right over there. Your ping is almost higher than your FPS. It's very, very difficult to get this game to run smooth. And I think a lot of people had issues with the beta. They're talking about crashing, can't get the game to run, low frame drops. You can go to Reddit and a lot of other forums. People are talking about the optimization for this game being absolutely terrible. The optimization in this game is like 2 out of 10. It's so bad. The lighting is so bad. But as far as graphic-wise goes, if they can get it to work like they're claiming, then it's 10 out of 10. But the reality is there's a lot of pop-ins and just in general lots of glitches in the game. As far as visuals, oh, another like funny thing that you can do in the game is it's actually faster a lot of times to like die and just warp back. You cannot warp anywhere consistently. There's like a cooldown on basically your town portal, but there are like these waypoint stones that you can utilize, but honestly just jump off the map and just respawn it much faster. But as far as like the graphics wise goes, there are areas, again, that look pretty dang nice. We're talking like 8 or 9 out of 10 in the current state. But then there's areas that are just like so glitchy and, textures kind of like pop in very consistently that I want to give it like a 5 or a 6. For graphics, I'll say like it's 6 because it's just so poorly optimized. If we're talking about optimization, it's just like 2 out of 10, man. The optimization of this game is terrible. Now, what about the combat? Like, because that's the main reason why a lot of people play MMOs. They want to go ahead and do the combat. There is so much walk from point A to point B in this game. It's consistently going from point A to point B on your mount or doing whatever, climbing. There's a lot more of that than actually the combat system itself, because I wanted this game to feel really good for the combat. The combat is very mid. It feels so lackluster. It's like 4 out of 10. It is miles behind. Again, if you're comparing this to Guild Wars 2, Black Desert Online, even Throne of Liberty, this game is behind those games, and this is supposed to be like the next gen action RPG. So I want to say, yeah, it's like 4 out of 10 for like the combat. It's really, really weak, and that's the area that I feel like most players want to see improvements on, and that can make it so much better. The bosses are actually kind of okay. Like, a lot of times, it's going to be a heavy gear score check unless you are really good. You can outscale the boss, which is a good thing. So as far as the bossing goes, that is an area where I would say the game does things a little bit better. But as far as like your general kill monsters, because the whole game itself just feels so clunky, unresponsive, and laggy, that's why I'm giving it a 4 out of 10. So overall, what do I give the game? I think the lowest score that you can really give it is maybe like a 3 or 4. Like the game is pretty rough on a lot of areas. If they can smooth out specifically the combat, I think people will enjoy the game more. But it's really the optimization in the combat that they need to focus in on to give them some constructive feedback. And then other areas where I think the game could be a little bit better, you really need to add that mini-map, because a lot of players, keep in mind, modern day gaming is all about giant red arrow, go right here. And you can mark things on the map and stuff, but it's very vague. It's a giant circle. And a lot of players, they'll hop in for their very first time in a free-to-play game and be like, dude, I got confused, I got lost, I turn off the game. So I think that it's going to be in their best interest to make it a lot smoother for newer players to be able to hop in and kind of understand where to go. Because sometimes some of the quests are like, oh, it's in a small house and you got to go up the stairs, and then you got to push this button and then pull this lever. It's like, it feels so cryptic. It's just like, am I finding an Easter egg or is this the main quest? And again, there's a lot of areas that are pretty broken in the game. But if I was to give like the beta a score, knowing that it's a beta, I would say it's like at highest maybe a 6. Like a high score of a 6, a low score of maybe a 4. That's probably where I would say the game lies right now in its current state. But if it comes out anywhere near its beta state, I think this game will kind of be really hot for a week, because people will make videos, make fun of it, and then that will be kind of the end of the game. Although there will be a lot of players that have interest in a next-gen MMO, so they're going to check it out. But if it's a free-to-play game, and they said there was supposed to be no pay-to-win, but we'll wait and see. But if there is absolutely zero pay-to-win, and the game is like, you buy it once and that's it, I think that this game can hold an audience. But if it's going to be a free game, we'll wait and see kind of how they deal with microtransactions, because if it's just cosmetics, that's cool, but I don't know, they could say no pay to win, but then like when you craft gear, I'm not sure if when you craft some of the materials, it's gonna have like a timer. If any of you guys have played like First Ascendant or like Warframe, you know how like it's like, okay, you can wait 20 hours, or just get mom's credit card and you can speed the progress up. I'm hoping that that's not the case with some of the crafting in the game, because ideally there is no pay to win, but I see that as some sort of potential over there. Again, you're gonna have to constantly open up your map, constantly mark stuff, and I think that is kind of annoying. But again, low 4 as a score, a high 6 is probably the score that I would give it. But anyways, I'm gonna check it out when it comes out. If you guys have played Chrono Odyssey, let me know. But that's kind of my final review score overall. So low 4, high 6 is my final verdict on the Chrono Odyssey beta after completing everything in the game. And when it comes out, guys, we will definitely be checking it out, and I'll update you guys if we get into any of the other betas in the future. So if you're new here and you want to be up to date with this game, as I want a new MMO to play, even if this one comes out and it's mid, I'm gonna check it out anyways, because I like action RPGs and MMOs. But subscribe and you'll see it. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out, gamers.